Good evening, everyone. We already have quite a number of people here. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we are welcome to this important and timely session. This webinar is called Regulating the Blue Economy, the role of maritime law in driving environmental sustainability. So my name is Andrea Ebite, and I am the moderator for today's session. First and foremost, who are we? We are Injukim Legal. We are a growing law firm dedicated to helping individuals and businesses navigate legal and compliance matters with clarity and excellence. So at Injukim Legal, we're passionate about empowering the next generation of lawyers to build meaningful and specialized law careers. And that's the reason why we've started this webinar series. We've been having these webinars for over close to a year now, since last year. If you are, as many of you know, many of our long-time audience. So this webinar series is part of our commitment to knowledge sharing, mentorship, and community impact. Now, all our webinars, including this webinar, is designed for lawyers. So whether you're just starting out, whether you're considering a specialization, or you're looking to pivot to change your niche, whether you're curious at what a career in maritime looks like, what the entry points are, and how to get started with the right tools, or whatever insights you're looking for, this is where you will get those insights. So let me welcome our speaker today, Juliet. Juliet Chidiogo Mba. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So she's our speaker today. She's the co-founder of the Path Shaker. I know you're wondering, what is that? The Path Shaker is a Nigerian environmental and sustainability organization that is focused on climate action and waste management. Woo! That was like a mouthful. I'm sure Juliet would tell us more about that. So she's currently pursuing a barrister at law qualification at the Nigerian Law School. She's also very passionate about the evolving dynamics of maritime commerce and the role of responsive legal frameworks that can help strengthen Nigeria's shipping and technology ecosystem. So, Juliet, thank you very much. We are very happy to have you here. You're welcome. I'm passing it over to you. Introduce yourself. What do you have for us today?
Thank you very much, Andrea, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you for having me here today. I'm really, really excited to be here to share on a subject matter that I am very much interested in. So I am Juliet Chidiogo Mba, as Andrea already said, and I am a co-founder at the Path Shaker. What we do at the Path Shaker is basically environmental enlightenment and youth advocacy. So we are trying to reduce the environmental degradation in Nigeria. As we all know, Nigeria has a lot of environmental issues, and this has led to many problems, from flooding to, we'll talk about the desertification happening in the north, and we also have pollution in the Niger Delta region. So this is what we do. We advocate against these things. We teach and enlighten people against the danger of environmental degradation and the rest. And also, as she rightly said, I am pursuing my barrister at law program at qualification at the Nigerian Law School right now, and I am very excited to be in your presence today. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's actually very wonderful. And yes, you're right about the environmental issues that we have currently in Nigeria. We are moving into the rainy season, and as anybody knows, rainy season in Nigeria is a period that is actually very fraught with issues like flood, and then there is the contrast with the northern part, with the desertification and the dryness. But aside all of that, we are here to talk about the blue economy. What is the blue economy? How does it relate to what you do at the Path Shaker? How does it relate to maritime law, which is our subject matter today? Basically, what is the blue economy and how does it relate to environmental sustainability? Why should we as lawyers be bothered about that? What is the scope? Why does it matter? What is our intersection as lawyers with the blue economy and environmental sustainability or environmental issues?
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, thank you very much for that question. So when we talk about the blue economy, we are basically talking sustainability. So many people might be familiar with the phrase green economy. There is this clamor for going green, using gases or fuels that do not emit as much greenhouse gases. So the blue economy is like the ocean or sea version, if I may put it that way, of the green economy. So we are talking about sustainability in the ocean when we talk about the blue economy. So what does the blue economy mean for lawyers? As the world is clamoring for cleaner energy sources, clamoring for less environmental degradation and sustainability in everything we do, because we cannot just use the earth's resources and pollute it, because by doing so there is nothing left for the future generation to use. So as we are going towards that, it's going to open up a lot of opportunities in the maritime sector in Nigeria. As I currently speak, there is been a fund that has been remitted for Nigerians who want to venture into maritime. And one of those things that we are going to be looking at now is how to be sustainable in our own maritime industry in Nigeria. So a lot of opportunities open up, not only for Nigerians, but also for lawyers, because it is lawyers that would handle cases concerning regulation of this economy. And also when it comes to compliance, we also be the ones who advise companies and individuals on how to be compliant with rules and laws that govern the blue economy. So lawyers we have a wide range of opportunities in the maritime sector and in the blue economy as large. When it comes to making environmental policy, we are there. When it comes to regulatory advisory roles, we are also there. Maritime arbitration that will stem from issues concerning these same maritime issues, we are going to be there. So these are some of the opportunities that the blue economy represents to Nigeria and to lawyers as well.
Okay, that's actually very wonderful to hear. I mean, I'm already getting very excited at the possibility of, having a legal career in the maritime industry. But before we go, we dive deep into the opportunities that are open to us as lawyers in the maritime industry. I want us to go back to, you mentioned about how, in trying to achieve sustainability in the ocean, i.e. achieve blue economy, we as lawyers basically handle the regulation, the regulatory and the compliance part of that. So I'm very interested. So basically, what are the, for lack of a better word, what are the legal points in the blue economy? What are the pressure points rather? So what are the, where is being regulated? What is being regulated to achieve a blue economy? When you think about maritime, you think about shipping, which is basically a big part of global trade. I think we mentioned that 90% of global trade occurs via the sea. And then, you think about shipping, you think about fishing, and I think about mining. There's a lot of mining happening in the sea for oil. I think, energy, pollution. So basically, what are the pressure points? What are the parts or what are the aspects of the ocean, of maritime, that are being regulated, that we need to pay attention to be compliant with? So what are the, I would ask that, what are the legal pressure points in the blue economy?
Okay, so in relation to the points, the parts that we should be looking out for, the parts that are going to be strictly regulated when we talk about the blue economy, we have a lot of them. One of them, as you rightly mentioned, is offshore drilling. There is a lot
Mm.
of drilling going on in the ocean, and alongside that happens oil spill. So these drilling activities is causing pollution in the ocean. So there's going to be regulation as regards these activities, and people who are defaulting in terms of polluting the environment during these drilling activities would be fined heavily for cleaning up or made to clean up those oil that they have spilled. And also we look at fishing. This has been a major cause of disputes between countries, because we have countries who are quite close. When I say close, because countries do have the part of the ocean that they own. So there are countries who have such issues concerning border, concerning fishing rights, their exclusive economic zone. So the blue economy is also going to regulate that, and also regulate overfishing in the ocean. So certain people illegally fish on sites which are out of bounds. So this is another aspect that the blue economy is going to be looking into, and is going to be strictly regulated. And also we have things like marine pollution. What happens when a ship runs aground? What happens to all those things that are left in the water? The oil, the tanker fuel, the metal that are left, and all this affects marine life. It pollutes the marine environment. It takes hundreds, if not thousands of years before these things can be properly broken down. So this is another way. This is another thing that is going to be strictly regulated when we talk about the blue economy. And then finally, we will look at greenhouse gas emission. The shipping industry globally contributes to about 3% of global greenhouse gas emission. So
Wow.
we're looking at how to cut down. Right now, there's a campaign going on. It's called the Net Zero GHG gas, that is greenhouse gas emission. That by 2050, we shouldn't be having greenhouse gas emission anymore. And one of the efforts that is one of the things that is going to be part, like this campaign brings, is that we are going to be looking out for cleaner sources of fuel that ships can use, that will cut down significantly the amount of greenhouse gas that ships are emitting. And then any country or any shipping company that is not compliant, that still insists on using these carbon fuels that emit a lot of these gases, will be fined heavily. And these fines that are being collected from these non-compliant parties would now be channeled back into the global blue economy, which will definitely lead to growth in this sector. And yes, that is it. So generally, we are looking at all those activities that are depleting our ocean resources. It's going to be highly regulated, and people who are not compliant are going to be in a lot of trouble.
Okay, that's actually very, very interesting. Seems like there's a wide range of activities, economic activities especially, that are basically regulated by the government, which obviously shows that, that's a huge career opportunity for us as lawyers. But again, before we get into that, I just want you to touch upon, like, so what are the what regulations do we have that you've mentioned a wide range of economic activities that are obviously being regulated by law. So what are these laws? For example, what laws in Nigeria do we have that regulate these activities? What international laws, if there are any? Why do we have international laws? How does it affect us here in Nigeria? How does it affect us as lawyers? So, we've seen that, yes, these activities are being regulated. So how are they being regulated? What are the instruments that have been put in place to, regulate these activities?
Okay, when we talk about the maritime economy and blue economy in Nigeria, one thing we should note is that it is regulated both by Nigerian law and international law as well. Because maritime law, maritime trade transcends borders, there is need to have an international law. So first law that applies in Nigeria is the Merchant Shipping Act of 2007. So this law basically regulates the maritime economy. It regulates maritime trade and also disputes shipping operation generally. And then we also have the Admiralty Jurisdiction Act. And this one is basically about the jurisdiction of courts that are allowed to hear maritime matters, that are allowed to settle maritime disputes. And this Admiralty Jurisdiction Act particularly places exclusive jurisdiction over maritime issues on the Federal High Court. And then we also have the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency Act, that is the NIMASA Act. And it is this act that creates and establishes NIMASA as the sole maritime agency and maritime safety agency in Nigeria. So it gives NIMASA the power to regulate everything concerning maritime trade, safety, environmental protection, and compliance amongst the shipping companies in Nigeria. And finally, I think we have the Coastal and Inland Shipping Act, which is referred to as the Cabotage Act. This act aims to bring in Nigerians, because currently we have a lot of international players in the Nigerian maritime trade instead of Nigerians. Maritime shipping is a very capital intensive area. So without the money, a lot of people cannot be able to venture into this because it is capital intensive. A lot of Nigerians have been, thrown off the sidelines, and international players are coming into our country to take over the trade. So this Cabotage Act is basically clamoring for more Nigerians to be included in the Nigerian shipping space. And then we go to the international regulations that govern maritime in Nigeria. And amongst these, we have the International Maritime Organization, which basically has a lot of conventions that guides the use of the sea. One of them is UNCLOS, which is the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. This one it's called the Constitution of the Ocean, which means it basically contains provisions that guide almost every part of ocean use, ranging from territorial rights of nations to navigation, the right to innocent passage. It also controls activities on sea such as shipping, fishing, drilling. It contains laws that guide all of this. And then when we go to maritime safety, we have other conventions like the SOLAS. We also have convention when we come to maritime labor. We have convention like the Maritime Labor Convention of 2004, and a lot of that. There's a broad range of international conventions that govern maritime law in Nigeria, maritime activities in Nigeria. So how does this affect Nigerians and lawyers in Nigerians as a whole? When we talk about this convention, Nigeria has ratified a lot of international maritime treaties and conventions, but it is yet to be fully implemented, and should I say fully ratified in Nigeria. We are signatory to it, but it has not been fully ratified. So where the lawyers come in, when these ratification processes is going on, lawyers would be the ones to interpret, lawyers would be the ones to advise on how best it is to go about these things. So this is how lawyers come into this field. And Nigerians, our maritime economy alone in Nigeria is enough to fund half of our budget, our Nigerian budget. Nigeria is a country that is very, very intensive, like we import rather, we depend a lot on imports, on imported goods, on solely imported goods. So look at this. We have like a sector that could, we are talking about diversifying the economy all the time. This is one of these things we should look into. We have a lot of marine resources from fishing. Nigeria has like how many ports? About 3 ports. Only one is functional, which is the Lagos Apapa port. And we could, look into this ports, we could look into these areas to fund our economy. Also, Nigerians could go into the maritime business, and this could also help us to grow our GDP, our living conditions in Nigeria. Nigerians could make a whole lot of money from this sector by venturing into the maritime business. This is one of the good things that the Carbon Charge Fund is going to do for a lot of Nigerians who are interested in venturing into this sector.
Okay, that's actually very interesting. Really, especially all the international treaties that we are yet to implement and ratify, and it basically shows how much opportunity is there in the maritime industry. And I like that you sort of segued into GDP, economy, business owners, and running a shipping business, because although a lot of our audience are young lawyers and lawyers to be, there's also the aspect of running a business or being a business owner in the maritime industry. So I'll also segue into that route and ask that for business owners in the maritime industry, because when it comes to, if there's anything we know as lawyers, business and the law work hand in hand. So when it comes to business owners in the maritime industry, what do you think they should be paying attention to, basically from a legal standpoint? So, there's a lot of shipping, there's a lot of fishing, there's a lot of offshore drilling that is happening in the maritime industry, and a lot of these activities are carried out by business owners, and we as lawyers are the ones who have to advise them. So if you were speaking to a business owner right now, say they want to, as you've mentioned, import or export and take advantage of our maritime industry, what would you advise them to pay attention to? Basically, is there a gap between what they are currently doing, how business owners carry out their businesses in the maritime industry? Is there a gap between how they carry out their business and how they should be carrying out their business? So what would you say to business owners, basically?
Okay. To business owners in the maritime industry, one thing I would say is that as everything else is, the maritime industry is also changing. So we are looking into sustainable practices. So if a business owner, you are still doing the normal, the normal practices, you should begin to look into going into the sustainable practice, because that is where the world is going to. As I earlier mentioned, the net zero campaign, when it is fully into play, some people who are still doing this particular traditional method of shipping and emitting greenhouse gases are going to begin to be fined by the International Maritime Organization. So we have to start looking, as business owners, we have to start looking at going green, being compliant with these things. So we should begin to look at green ways of shipping. We should begin to look into green shipping practices. They are now CNG ships. So you should begin to look at purchasing those ships, what it takes to go into the blue economy fully, so that you do not get caught or you do not get left behind in this way of doing things that we still are in. And I am very certain that for people who are the first to move into this area, there is a lot of benefits involved. Not only would they not be trapped in the, lacuna and courts fines and everything, they'll also begin to make more money because these sources of fuel are more cheaper and more long lasting than what we are used to. So this is one of the benefits, and this is one thing that business owners in Nigeria should also be looking at. Secondly, the cabotage fund, which is basically aimed at Nigerians. As a business owner who is interested in the maritime industry or is already in the maritime industry, we should utilize this fund very well. This would help you to not only scale your business in Nigeria, but you could easily be compliant. So you could easily purchase those things, those ships, those equipments you need to purchase to fully be in the race for the blue economy. So these are two things, these are two advices that I would give to the business owner, so that the portal for registering for the cabotage fund is open. So any business owner here right now, you could tap into this, you could go there and register and be a part of this. Thank you.
All right, that's wonderful. I'm sure once we post this on our social channels, this advice will resonate with a lot of maritime business owners. So we're finally there, or maybe not finally, because we still have some time, but we are here. We've been talking about the opportunities that are open to lawyers in the maritime industry. We've been talking about, the regulations that regulate the activities. We've also spoken about those activities that occur in the maritime industry. We've talked about the bodies that regulate them. I've spoken about how once those regulations are especially implemented in Nigeria, it basically opens up a huge trove of opportunities for lawyers. So given that a lot of our attendees, a lot of our audience, even those on social media and our YouTube channel are young lawyers to be, or new lawyers, or lawyers who are yet to specialize and choose their niche, what would you say is, or how would you say these lawyers or these lawyers to be can enter into the maritime industry? So basically, how would they specialize in the maritime industry? What are the careers that are open to them, whether as a Nigerian lawyer or, even if you're not a lawyer, a young student or somebody who wants to enter the maritime industry? What are the realistic career paths open to them? What are the opportunities open to them? How do they get in? How do they get in? How do they navigate their way around the maritime industry? So what would you say to them?
For the young lawyers who are looking to having a career in maritime law, there is a broad range of career opportunities available. One of them is maritime arbitration. There are just a lot. One of them is maritime arbitration. You could become a maritime arbitrator. Most maritime issues are settled through arbitration. So you could look into you could get your arbitration certification and then become a maritime arbitrator. There's also the regulatory side. So you could advise companies on compliance. You could advise these shipping companies on compliance. Then there is maritime insurance. You could work in a maritime insurance company and you could advise these companies on the best practices in this place. I'm talking about the commercial law aspect of maritime, if a career in maritime law. And then let's look at the policy aspect. We're talking about ocean conservation, the blue economy. You could also become a policy maker. If you are so skilled in the maritime industry, you are so skilled in the knowledge of maritime law, Nigeria is one of those countries that is still yet to ratify most of the maritime treaties that we have, and we still have a long way to go when it comes to the blue economy and sustainability. You could step into this gap, you could become a policy maker, make these laws and strengthen our existing regulations in this aspect. And finally, you could look at the environmental sustainability aspect. So you could become an environmental lawyer. You could you could also even become a litigator. You could if you're a skilled litigator, you're very good at advocacy, you could look into this area. I mean, in the process of contract, in the process of having maritime contract, issues arise, and not all these issues will be settled through arbitration. So some of these issues will also make it to court. You could represent your clients, it could be a maritime business, it could be a shipping company or private parties. You could represent them in court as their litigator. And I hope I have been able to mention some of these interesting areas where you could venture into as a law student or as a lawyer who is looking forward to starting a career in maritime law. Now, next point on my list is how do you venture into these areas? I will start from the law student. So if you are still a law student and you're looking to venture into maritime law, one advice I would always give is to, if you have not passed the level where you should offer maritime law, it will give you a basic understanding of what the industry entails. It will give you a basic understanding of maritime law and the opportunities that are available for you as a young lawyer in the maritime industry. And I tell you, it cuts your work in half. So you already have the basic knowledge. All you need to do is now to build on it. But if you have passed this if you pass this stage in your life, like you didn't offer maritime law at the time where you had the opportunity to, no worries. There are short courses that you could take that are totally free. I will drop the link to some of them on the chat box before this meeting is over. You could take these short courses, you could gain certification on any area of maritime law at all that you want, the maritime arbitration, and the rest. And with time you should be able to catch up. You could also follow like maritime happenings in the industry on YouTube, and you could join associations such as the Nigerian Maritime Lawyers Association. If you're a student, I know that some universities have their own maritime law association. I'm very sure of the University of Lagos and University of Ibadan, they should have their own maritime law association. You could be a part of this, and by so doing, I'm very sure they attend and they organize webinars such as this one, which you could attend to gain more knowledge on the field. And in a matter of months or a few years, you would be on your way, or if not already, a maritime lawyer. So thank you.
Okay, that's actually very interesting. I like how you started with the various opportunities that are open to entries into maritime law, being arbitrators, going into the regulatory aspect, or being a policy maker, maritime insurance, even being a litigator, an environmental lawyer. Those are very interesting aspects of it. And then you also took us through how, you took us through what we can do, and then you took us through how we can go there. And I like how you mentioned taking the maritime law course as a university student, especially given that you said you mentioned that it basically cuts your work into half. That's actually very interesting. But then again, as you mentioned, there's still hope for those who were unable to take that course while they were in university. You mentioned the short courses that they can take, etc. So that I realized that that's actually very law specific. So I mean, given that we have works like policymaker, ocean conservationist, arbitrators, and then again, there's also the opportunity of courses, associations, social media channel, YouTube channels, and opportunities like that. Do you think, having a career in the maritime industry is, especially when it comes to the options that you mentioned, do you think it's solely tailored for lawyers? Do you think for someone who maybe studied English and they think that, oh, I want to go into, I think there's a maritime academy, if I remember correctly. Is there a maritime academy that they can go there or take courses and, do you think it's open to them?
Okay. Yes, there is a maritime academy in Nigeria. Okay, I'm currently searching the university. I'm going to drop the link on the chat box. As a non-lawyer, you can take courses in this maritime. It's not just for lawyers. I specifically tailored my whole presentation, the answers to these questions, to lawyers because I am a lawyer. So pardon me if I'm a bit biased in this aspect. But if you studied courses other than law, there are still opportunities for you. You could work on ships, you could be a sailor, you could be an engineer working on a ship, you could be an environmentalist in the clamor for a blue economy. There is a wide range of opportunities for you. And you could also take courses from this academy to build up your skill base, which will put you at the forefront for these opportunities. So the answer is yes and yes again. There are career opportunities available for non-lawyers in the maritime space as well.
All right, that's a relief to hear. I can hear many people go, phew, in the background. So we've actually had a very interesting conversation. We've talked about the blue economy, talked about how it is basically the ocean version of sustainability. It's basically, trying to achieve green economy, but instead of it being on land, we're trying to achieve that in the ocean. We've talked about the various activities that encompass the maritime industry, drilling, fishing, shipping, etc. We also talked about the legal framework around those activities. We discussed how Nigeria has a very robust legal framework that regulates the maritime industry, everything that has to do with ocean, basically not just running the activities, but also trying to regulate them such that, sustainability is achieved, to prevent against overfishing, oil spills, and negative activities like that. We also spoke about the international framework that we are ratified to, or that we are parties to. Okay, I think everyone, Juliet has dropped the link to the university or the academy in the chat. So please go there, copy it. So as I was saying, we also talked about the international organizations that we are parties to. And although we are yet to implement them here in Nigeria, they still represent a huge opportunity for us, not only as lawyers, but also as a country to take advantage of. We also spoke about the business aspects of it, what business owners should pay attention to, and how lawyers can help with that. We also spoke about, the opportunities open to lawyers, how we can get into those opportunities, even if you're not a lawyer, how you can have access to the maritime industry. So we've had a very, very fruitful discussion. So before we, try to conclude or go any further, I'm going to ask, you've spoken a lot about what we are doing here in Nigeria, and even not just here in Nigeria, across the world, laws that are trying to make that possible. Although things are done a certain way, and we are trying to shift from that into a more sustainable practice, you began with, talking about how we face many environmental issues on land, and, also how those environmental issues also, affect the sea, the oceans. So what do you think is in the future for us here in Nigeria as it pertains to maritime law and the maritime industry? What are the factors that will affect maritime law as we go forward? Is it technology? So while we are waiting for Juliet, we can just go through a quick recap. I think I already mentioned everything that we spoke about, talking about the blue economy, talking about the opportunities that are open to us, talking about the activities that we carry out in the maritime industry. Oops, we lost Juliet. So we'll just wait for her to try to log back in. While we are waiting for her, please, as I mentioned earlier, she already posted a link to an academy right there in the chat. So if you're interested in it, copy it. If you're not interested in it, please still copy it and just save it somewhere so that you will not say that, Injukim Legal, that link, I'm looking for it to please. But don't worry, we'll try to get it to you regardless. So we've spoken about the blue economy. We've spoken about how we want to achieve that blue economy, the activities that we currently carry out in the maritime industry, what laws regulate those activities, what opportunities are open to us as lawyers. And we have Juliet back. Juliet, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, that
Okay.
was in.
You are speaking, but I can't hear you. So if you can hear me, what I'll just say is, if you can hear Juliet, please, can you indicate, send an emoji or speak up in the chat, please? Okay, Francisca can hear us. Can you also hear Juliet, please? Okay, since we all have a bit of a network issue today, which is unfortunate, but thankfully we were able to get through the main part of the webinar. I don't know if anyone else can hear me. If you can hear me, please know that this recording of the webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. So even if the network on your end broke up, or even if you missed some parts, you will be able to get it on our YouTube channel. Okay, Geraldine can also hear me. As I mentioned, this webinar recording will be available on our social media, our YouTube channel, but we're also working to share it on our social media channels. So even if you don't have the time to watch the entire hour on YouTube, we will be sure to place snippets on our social media so you can get salient points. We try to get whatever resources our speaker shares to us, we try to get it to our audience as soon as possible. So we will do that in this case. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for coming here. Juliet, please just give your opinion. Please give your opinion on the future of the maritime industry.
As I have said before, the future of the maritime industry is blue. The future is blue. We are heading into sustainable energy sources. We are heading into sustainable practices in the maritime industry. And while this sounds good on paper, there is going to be a lot of policy changes, a lot of technological changes that comes with it. So what many countries are doing right now, many countries who have maritime trade, who are waterlogged, what they are doing right now is that they are slowly transitioning into this future. And I think we as Nigeria should also look into how to transition, because truly this is the future. The future is going into this angle, and we should all be facing this angle because the future is truly bright. Thank you very much. Oh my God.
Okay. So thank you very much for giving your opinion on what the future of the maritime industry is. We really appreciate you taking the time to come here and speak to us. So everyone, as I mentioned, I don't know if everyone could hear me when I was talking earlier, but this recording will be available on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on our blogs. You can sign up for our newsletter, follow us on our social media channel. You can read our blogs. We usually do these webinars every month, so please be on the lookout for the next webinar. Juliet, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. Oh, before we leave, does anyone have any question? I realized that I did not give opportunity. Do we have any questions for Juliet, please? We still have 7 minutes. So, anyone, any questions for Juliet? She has shared wonderful things with us today and very interesting things. In fact, I myself, I was able to have all my questions answered, basically understanding how maritime law or how the maritime industry works here in Nigeria, how to go in, and also knowing what the future is for the industry. So is there anyone that would like to ask a question? Anything interesting that you'd like to point out? Okay, if you have any questions, you can connect with Juliet on LinkedIn. She's Juliet Mba, co-founder of the Path Shaker. So you can connect with her on LinkedIn, and I'm sure she will be able and willing to answer any questions you have for her. As I mentioned, we are in Jukim Legal. We typically work presents a webinar every month, so please be on the lookout for our next webinar. And follow us on our blogs, our social medias, watch our videos on YouTube, sign up for our newsletter, and we will see you next month. Thank you very much. Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come and listen to us. Okay, Juliet,
Thank
bye.
you.
It was our pleasure. Bye. Bye, everyone. See you next month.